John Lennon, 1940 to 1980, was a British musician, singer-songwriter, and peace activist, best known as a founding member of the Beatles, one of the most influential bands in music history. Born on October 9, 1940, in Liverpool, England, Lennon grew up in a turbulent family environment, raised primarily by his aunt, Mimi. His early love for music and art led him to form his first band, the Quarrymen, which eventually evolved into the Beatles, with Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. With the Beatles, Lennon co-wrote and performed countless iconic songs including Imagine, Help, Strawberry Fields Forever, and Come Together. His partnership with Paul McCartney was one of the most celebrated in music history. The band's innovative approach transformed rock and pop music, achieving global superstardom in the 1960s. After the Beatles disbanded in 1970, Lennon pursued a successful solo career, producing influential works such as the album Imagine and engaging in political activism. His marriage to Yoko Ono became a central part of his life and public persona, with the pair collaborating on music and art projects and advocating for peace. Lennon temporarily withdrew from the public eye in the mid-1970s to focus on family life after the birth of his son, Sean. He made a comeback in 1980 with the release of Double Fantasy, but was tragically assassinated by a fan, Mark David Chapman, outside his New York City apartment on December 8, 1980. Lennon's legacy endures as a symbol of peace, creativity, and the transformative power of music. Lennon had just released Double Fantasy and was gearing up for a full return to music. Given his proclivity for reinvention, his 1980s work would likely have pushed boundaries. Inspired by the new wave, punk, and synth-driven sounds of the era, he might have collaborated with artists like David Bowie, a friend, Elvis Costello, or even Michael Jackson, then at his peak. Lennon's lyrics would have remained introspective and political, addressing global tensions like the Cold War and apartheid. His activist tendencies would have intensified during Ronald Reagan's presidency, with Lennon likely speaking out against policies he viewed as warmongering or unjust. He might have reconnected with anti-war figures such as Joan Baez or mid-rising activists like Nelson Mandela. However, Lennon's outspoken nature could have made him a polarizing figure, especially as his critiques of conservatism might alienate some fans. As John Lennon grew older, Lennon's commitment to fatherhood would remain a priority. However, his tendency to self-isolate during stress and clashes with Yoko Ono over creative and business decisions could have strained their marriage. Lennon might have explored acting or multimedia art, possibly working with avant-garde directors like David Lynch. During the late 1980s, the music industry shifted toward pop and hip-hop dominance. Lennon's work might have struggled to find commercial success, and his unwillingness to pander to trends might have caused a decline in his mainstream relevance. Critics might have labeled him outdated, similar to how Bob Dylan faced challenges in the 1980s. His relationships with former Beatles, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr would likely remain complex. While he might have occasionally collaborated with McCartney, for example on We Are the World style projects, lingering tensions could resurface, particularly regarding the Beatles' legacy. As Lennon approached his 50s, his status as a rock legend would have been cemented. The 1990s nostalgia wave for the Beatles could have led him to reluctantly participate in reunion projects. For instance, Lennon might have joined McCartney, Harrison, and Starr for the Anthology Project, 1995 to 96. Though likely, with conditions ensuring artistic integrity, Lennon's political activism would evolve, embracing issues like LGBTQ+ rights and climate change, aligning with contemporaries like Bono or Sting. His unfiltered opinions, however, might spark controversies in the press, particularly as the media landscape grew increasingly sensationalized. During this era, Lennon might also reconnect with estranged son, Julian Lennon. Their relationship had been tense, but Lennon's growing maturity could have prompted reconciliation, particularly as Julian pursued his own music career. Entering the 21st century, Lennon would likely embrace his role as an elder statesman of music. Similar to peers like Bob Dylan or Neil Young, he might have released stripped-down acoustic albums that focused on raw, poignant storytelling. Collaborations with younger artists such as Radiohead, Beck, or even Lady Gaga might have kept his work relevant to new generations. However, Lennon's health might have become a concern. His history of drug use and reported struggles with alcohol could have led to health complications in his later years. Additionally, his sometimes abrasive personality might have alienated collaborators or fans as he aged. Yoko Ono's influence would remain significant, but Lennon might have asserted more independence in his creative projects. Their marriage, while enduring, might have faced public scrutiny, particularly if Lennon engaged in more extramarital affairs, as had occurred earlier in their relationship. If Lennon lived into his 70s and beyond, he would likely have settled into a quieter life, focusing on family, philanthropy, and occasional music releases. His outspoken nature might have clashed with the rise of social media, where his unfiltered opinions could spark a widespread debate. As an icon, Lennon's enduring message of peace and love would resonate, but his flaws, arrogance, infidelity, and temper would also be part of his legacy. Biopics, documentaries, and retrospectives on his life would likely portray him as a complex figure, a genius with deep contradictions. Lennon's relationships with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr might have softened with age, leading to more heartfelt collaborations or public appearances celebrating the Beatles' legacy. By the 2000s, Lennon might have taken on a mentor-like role, offering insights to younger generations of musicians and activists. If Lennon had lived, his life would likely have been a blend of artistic brilliance, personal struggles, and polarizing public moments. He would remain an icon of peace and creativity, but also a flawed individual navigating the complexities of fame, family, and legacy. Whether celebrated or criticized, John Lennon's voice would undoubtedly continue to shape conversations about music, activism, and humanity. And there you have it, a glimpse into a world where John Lennon's story didn't end on that tragic night in 1980, a life of reinvention, creativity, and activism, but also one of complexity, controversy, and undeniable humanity. What would the world look like with Lennon's unfiltered voice guiding us through the decade? Would his vision of peace and love have found its place in the chaos of modern times? Or would the man himself become a relic of another era, struggling to stay relevant in a world he once helped change? One thing's for sure, Lennon's What If reminds us of the profound impact one life can have, not just through music, but through the power of ideas. So, what do you think? Would John Lennon's future have been a masterpiece or a bittersweet ballad? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation alive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Real Reelz for more alternate realities of the icons you know and love. Until next time, keep imagining.